So anyways, I think we'll have to get started. My name is John Kantner. I'm the interim associate provost, as well as the associate VP for research and the dean of the graduate school. On behalf of the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs, I want to welcome you all to the University of North Florida. We usually do this, of course, as a face-to-face meeting, but because of uncertainties about the pandemic, we are doing this remotely. This was planned this way a while ago. We, of course, however, are in our offices on campus mostly. And so the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs is open. And we certainly want people to come by and visit with us, whenever they get the opportunity to do so, and meet our staff, look at the resources we have available to help you as you get started on your research, scholarship, and creative activities at UNF. So the way that we wanted to proceed with the meeting today was just to give some introductions about our office and what we do. Many of the staff are here with us on the call. And then do sort of brief introductions of yourselves, so we know who you are and what your research interests are, and then we're going to go through briefly some of the resources and the services that we provide through our office. So to start out with, what it is that we do. So the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs, our responsibilities are to first and foremost to try to help you do your research or other activities as, of course, you're assigned to do. So scholarship and creative activities, like I said before. You often see the abbreviations RCRA, which we often talk about RISCA here as sort of trying to encompass all of the activities that faculty are hired to do here at UNF. So the way that we're organized, however, is around the sponsored project and really looking at the entire life cycle of a contract or grant. And so you can see here in this particular image sort of shows our different units. So we have a sort of a pre-award unit, which is what we call research development. And the research development unit coordinates trying to make sure that your proposals are developed in a way to be competitive when you submit them to whether it's a federal agency or to an industry sponsor, to a state agency, and so forth. We also, of course, during that process have to attend to issues of research integrity, and you'll certainly hear more details about all these in a little bit, but research integrity is sort of the compliance parts of it. This can range everything from financial conflicts of interest to, I think, what many people are familiar with, like the IRB and so forth. So we'll talk more about that. And then if you do receive a contract or grant, then we have a research, contract administration unit, which helps to make sure that the contracts adhere to the requirements of the state and the federal laws and regulations, as well as the university policies. And then we have a grants accounting and financial management division, which helps with actually spending the money if you were to get it. And then for some of you, of course, there's issues around intellectual property and the protection of intellectual property on behalf of yourselves as well as the university. And so we have the ability to assist you with that. To give you another view of how this is organized, this is our org chart, and it's divided into these different units. And what I want to do at this point is to introduce the directors of each of these and the assistant directors, and who these folks are. So some of them are here on the call. So the director of sponsored research is Dr. Teresa Boston. Teresa has been with the university for some time now, even though she's only 25 years old. She's been here for 20 years, but she knows the ins and outs of every single part of the university and how things operate here. And she is the director of the office and supervises a number of assistant directors. And the first assistant director I want to introduce is Leanne Thompson, who is the interim assistant director of research development. And she also helps with contracts administration. Just to give you a little bit of a sort of heads up, we have a few vacancies in our office. So we have a few interim positions because we've reorganized our office to try to make sure that we continue to provide the services while we fill some vacancies. Research integrity is directed by interim assistant director, Dr. Bridget Rahim Williams, who also has considerable experience in research development. We actually moved her from research development to research integrity to help us with that at the moment. And then we also, I'm not sure if I see her here, but I see Patty Launer is part of the grants accounting and financial management team, which is directed by Angela Gibson, who I'm not sure I see here on the call. And then I work with Rosalind Gilbert, who also is the office manager on managing our intellectual property portfolio. And so she and I work on tech transfer, protecting your IP, and trying to license your IP if you're in a discipline that, for example, does have patentable inventions, for example. So what I wanted to point out with this is just to show you that we don't just focus on sponsored projects. So our research integrity unit, for example, oversees the Institutional Review Board for those who are doing human subjects research, the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee for those of you who are doing research with either animals in captivity, such as in our vivarium that we have, or animals that are in the wild. We also have in that unit oversight of the Institutional Biosafety Committee. For any of you who may be working with biosafety hazards. And then coming soon, this is a new responsibility that's shifted to our office, and one which is particularly acute here in Florida at the moment, and that is the export control and foreign influence area. We have a number of new state laws that have been put into effect, which require faculty to disclose outside activity, which was always, of course, a concern of any university. And we have our conflicts of interest policy, and it's part of the collective bargaining agreement with the faculty, but it's become a little more of a concern for us because some state laws that have been put into place very recently, and we want to try to help you all to make sure that you don't run afoul of these somewhat complicated state laws. So we're developing an area, and we'll be hiring a couple people to help us ensure that we're in compliance with some of these state laws, as well as some of the federal laws and regulations. So that's the way that we're organized. I think it'd be sort of nice to hear from some of you about what your research interests are. I know many of you shared your profile PDFs, which we sent out to you and you've submitted to us, and that's great. It really helps us to be able to know what your needs are as we see opportunities emerge, what we think you might be interested in, then we can reach out to you. But maybe if we go around and have you all introduce yourselves, if you don't mind, and maybe we'll start with Dr. Osborne. So Rain, are you there? Want to just give a brief information about what your area of expertise is and a few sentences about your research interests?
Sure, thanks. So as you say, Rain Osborne, so I'm in the Department of Physical Therapy over here at Brooks College of Health. And so my particular research interest is more around the educational research world, and particularly in post-professional education in the health professions. So I do some interprofessional education work here with some of our students on campus, as well as residency programs at St. Vincent's Family Medicine Residency and our residents at Brooks Rehabilitation. Also do some work that sort of intersects with kind of organizational development and HR work, looking at professional development within organizations, and how do we fill what I would consider the excellence gap, so the gap between what is known and what kind of how we practice, and then the innovation gap of what's known and what we really need in order to meet societal needs as healthcare professionals.
Great, thanks, Rain. Dr. Cho, you're next on my screen. And I think I've gotten a couple messages that not everybody has a microphone, so I won't have you all do it if you can't.
Okay.
But,
So yeah, I am Hom Young Cho. My English name is Luke. So yeah, please call me Luke. And I'm in the Department of Public Health, assistant professor. My research areas included health risk behaviors and prevention of tobacco use, and physical activity, obesity, kind of health risk behaviors. And I usually use nationwide secondary data and conduct quantitative studies using advanced statistical and epidemiologic methods. So I plan to conduct, I'm not sure, but I plan to conduct a survey among UNF students, so to get the data and create novel idea about UNF student health risk behaviors and their perception about it, health risk behaviors kind of things. So that is one of my planned research. So yeah, that's it. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Welcome to UNF. Dr. Havinga, you're next on my screen. Okay, so maybe we'll move on to, and I can't see entire last name, but I know your first name's Katy because we had an email exchange. So Katy, do you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Katy Tarnowska. I'm a new faculty in computing, and my research area is in applying data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence methods to develop computer systems that support decision-making in various areas such as business or clinical informatics.
Great. Thank you. Dr. Collin, Casey Collin?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Casey Collin, and I am in nutrition and dietetics, and my current research involves health informatics in a way. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Health Informatics Infrastructure is where we house our data registry for diabetes, and most recently we have initiated a project on breastfeeding. And what we are aiming to do with these studies in many different directions is to connect outcomes resulting from medical nutrition therapy from registered dietitians. And so that's something that's lacking in our field, is a very direct link between medical nutrition therapy strategies and the outcomes resulting. And so that's my most current research interest.
Great, thank you. Dr. Deshawn?
I'm Maida Shan. I'm working in the School of Computing, and my main research is visual analytics, high performance computing, and machine learning. And my research interest is applying visual analytics tools into healthcare systems mainly. However, I'm open also to getting visual analytics into science. And by science, I mean geosciences, like different areas of science. So this is mainly what I'll be working on.
Great, welcome. Dr. Grant? Okay, maybe there's no sound. So Amy Howell, Dr. Howell.
Hi, it's Mrs. Howell. It's nice to be here. I'm actually not participating in any research currently. I'm joining as an instructor. This is super helpful for me though, and I logged on to the meeting because I will be starting my doctoral work soon. So it's nice to get as much information as I can I'll be in the School of Nursing.
Great, welcome. And I should point out that that we certainly support instructors, and we have a number of instructors who have, as appropriate to their assignment, have submitted grants. So we serve you all, and many of you, for example, may be working with students who require IRB protocols to be reviewed, and we certainly will collaborate with you for that as well. So we definitely are here not just to serve the tenure line faculty, but the entire campus community. Dr. Freeman Green.
Hello, my name is Shaquana Freeman Green. I'm an associate professor in the ED department, and my areas of interest focus on teaching and learning strategies for students who learn and think differently through culturally sustaining practices. And so with that, my focus is on mathematics at the secondary level, specifically Algebra 1 for students with exceptionalities. And then second piece of that is I also conduct research with professionals using virtual simulation. And so, yes,
Great.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, welcome. Dr. Brzanovic. I'm not sure if I pronounced that properly.
Yes, hello.
Morning.
You pronounced it really well. Thank you so much. I'm a visiting instructor in anthropology. I've been working at UNF as an adjunct faculty for the past 5 years. Some of my research projects that I was involved with before becoming a visiting instructor in anthropology at UNF were it's kind of all over the place, but I worked on a long-term social ecological research in the Florida Everglades. And I also did research on return migration in Serbia and anything to do with reintegration and language among the youth of diaspora here in the United States, and also with the return migrants in Serbia.
Okay, great. One thing which I forgot to mention in the chaos of trying to make the meeting work is if anybody has questions they want us to address, then please feel free to put them into the chat. We will have a question and answer session later. And one reason I thought of it is just to mention that that for visitors, we provide the same services for visitors, but we usually ask that we get the approval of the chair. So visiting faculty often, of course, have active research programs, and we want to be able to support them. But we also, because we're not sure how long the visitors will be here, we want to make sure that the chair is involved in any decision-making about things like submitting grants and so forth. So we certainly want to work with visitors, and many times visitors are collaborating with faculty who are here permanently, and so we're here to support you all.
Thank you. That's great.
Dr. Malik.
Hello, I'm Adrienne Malik-Lassiter, and I'm in the Early Childhood Education Department. My research interests focus on supporting holistic learning environments. Specifically, I have a background in nutritional science as well as early childhood education, so I've been focusing on the mealtime practices in the preschool classroom and to create a more holistic learning environment, including the mealtime. I also have some research collaboration still ongoing with my colleagues from the University of Oklahoma, and those relate to like supporting holistic teacher well-being, and that's an interdisciplinary study that incorporates like variety of disciplines, including physical therapy, interior design, and etc. And then also looking at supporting play-based activities in virtual teaching. So thank you, happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for the summary. Dr. Badgett, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce people's names.
You got it right.
Okay.
So I'm Natalie Badgett. I am an assistant professor in the I can never get this right, exceptional deaf and interpreter education department. And I am a behavior analyst. So my research really focuses on applied behavior analysis in special education. And I'm really specifically interested in promoting community and educational inclusion of people with disability across the lifespan through implementation of evidence-based behavioral strategies. I have a few ongoing projects related to embedding strategies in technology. So I'm interested in talking to the intellectual property and management folks, but I also focus on professional development, training, and just one-on-one intervention when I have the opportunity, which I haven't in about 2 years now. So yeah, I mostly use single case design. I sprinkle a little bit of qualitative methods in there to enhance the significance of my findings. And I collaborate frequently with large and quantitative researchers, especially when writing grants. So yeah.
Great, thank you. Dr. Gibson Alonso.
Hello, good morning. So I am an instructor in the Brooks College of Health. I'm teaching mental health and counseling and physical activity in public health. A pleasure to be here, and thank you all for your time and sharing with us this morning. A couple of my research interests have to do with health education and accountability and evidence of practice within Florida. There's been a lot of changes in State Board of Education rules related to health education in Florida. And I'm very interested in seeing the impact of those and reporting on the impact of those changes as it's seen for the school system for students and as well as for educators. So accountability and evidence of practice within health education. Also, second, I'm very interested in intergenerational connections and learning. And so the aging spectrum and how that intergenerational connections impact seniors as well as younger people in Florida. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Czeselsky, I'm not sure that was right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, wonderful, because I had trouble with getting to that meeting, and right now you can hear me through my phone, but I see the slide on the screen, so I wasn't sure if that's gonna work. I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much for your time. Yes, my name is Szymon Ciesielski. I'm in the chemistry department, the newly appointed assistant professor. My research is in biochemistry, molecular biology, and cellular biology. It's essentially a basic research. To be more specific, I'm interested in chaperone proteins that are connected with Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and a lot of medical important elements or important issues right now. My immediate interest is to apply for the grant to fund my research and set up my lab and fund my research by students. I would like to apply for the NIH R15 grant, area grant, sort of right away based on the data I have from my postdoctoral training. We are just working on finishing on my last publication. So I hope to get connected to you quite fast, maybe thinking January or something. I don't remember exactly the deadlines, but yeah, finding the grant, the funding for obtaining the funding for the research will be absolutely critical for me. I'm also looking into the NSF different opportunities for the primary undergraduate institutions. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. And thank you all for the summaries. It's really helpful. I think maybe I got everybody, but if I didn't, feel free to speak up. So,
Dr.
Yeah.
Dr. Knupp is in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
You want to just point out that she is.
Thank you, Dr. Knupp, who has had trouble with the audio. So she.
Well, she doesn't have a microphone yet, so.
Right. So she provides, she's at the Florida Institute of Education, which is one of our centers and institutes. And it's a great opportunity. I notice there's a number of you who are involved in education or research around education. And FIE, as it's known, is a great opportunity for you all. It's actually serves the entire state. So it's great to have someone who is joining us from there. So what we wanted to do next to talk a little bit about the support that we have. Now, many of you talked about seeking external funding, and that's of course something which we certainly encourage you to do. But we also, as much as possible, try to provide internal support sources. So, for example, this year, for those of you who are coming in, many of you received startup funding. That's something which is relatively new to us at the scale that we've been doing it, and I think reflects upon our desire as an institution to try to enhance our research profile. But of course, for many of you, in order to go out and, for example, to apply for an NIH grant or to work with industry partners, it often helps that you have pilot data set up and have research which is underway at UNF, and that's where the internal support can come in to assist you. So we could spend an entire workshop talking about this, and certainly if you have questions anytime, you can reach out to us about these sources of internal support. But here's some of the ones which are most commonly referenced these days. Now, the one at the top, you often will hear the folks who have been here for a while refer to them sort of colloquially as summer grants. They're more officially known as faculty scholarship development grants. And this usually supported around 20 to 30 faculty every year, particularly those who were collaborating interdisciplinarily in order to sort of launch projects. Because of the financial situation that we had with the pandemic, this year we were not going to be running this particular program. But the good news is that for this year's budget, the president did set aside $1 million for us to support faculty research. And although we haven't officially announced any of these yet, there's on the slide, you can see some examples of the way which we plan to use this funding. So for example, shared instrumentation for those of you who are in the sciences or engineering, or even for those of you who may be in the social sciences or even the creative arts, there may be instrumentation or equipment that you need in order to successfully do your work. And so there will be a program that will be launched around that, which would probably take up a reasonable chunk of that money. But we also want to make sure we recognize those and support those who don't necessarily rely upon instrumentation. And so we do have plans to have another set of competitions for humanists, humanistically inclined social scientists, and creative artists as well. Something new, which I've been really pushing for, and I'm glad we're able to do this for the coming year, is article processing fees. As in many of your disciplines, some of the top journals may be open access, or they have article processing fees in place in order to recover the costs of publication. And so we're going to have a mechanism in place to support this, whereas in the past, this has not been something we've really been able to do. And then similarly, for those of you in the book writing disciplines, we do hope to, or we do plan to be able to support book subventions. For both of these, we're certainly going to be looking at to ensure that the quality of the publishing outlet warrants the kind of investment that the university would put into this, but it is funding that's available. And then in addition to that, you'll see that outside of academic affairs and the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs, there are many other sources of funding across the campus to support your research. Many of the colleges, for example, the College of Arts and Science, they do have their own grant programs to seed research and collaborations. Our UNF Foundation, which is a separate organization that supports the university, also has a competition. And you can see here the kind of projects that they're looking for. Those are usually announced sometime in the early fall. And for new faculty coming in, it's sort of easy because I know you're very busy with other stuff to sort of miss these announcements. So just want to make sure that you're aware of it and keep your eyes open for those. Across UNF, we have about 17 centers and institutes that help to support research and scholarship and creative activities. And many of them have their own grant programs as well. One which has been pretty successful at supporting faculty and leveraging, and faculty being able to leverage that support for external funding is what used to be called the Environmental Center and has been renamed the Institute of Environmental Research and Education. And they do have seed grants as well, usually to support interdisciplinary collaborations. I checked, they're probably going to announce their competition starting in August. So there's a number of these, and I just want to make sure you pay attention to when these pop up, usually early in the fall. That will be true also for the presidential money, which I referenced before. So start thinking about projects, start finding collaborators if you can, to try to be poised to submit to these opportunities. So with that, what I'd like to do is to turn it over to Leanne Thompson, and Leanne's going to talk about research development, the research development unit, and how that can support your efforts in securing contracts and grants.
Thanks, Dr. Kantner. Hi, everyone. As Dr. Kantner mentioned, my name is Leanne Thompson. I am the interim assistant director for research development, as well as I do work in contract administration as well. So I'm going to talk about a few of the services that research development offers. So what we try to do is assist faculty and staff for preparing their submission to any of the federal agencies or any agency, sponsoring agency, whether it is federal, whether it is nonprofit, an industry agency. We do submit to a various amount of agencies. So we tend to get a lot of funding agencies, sometimes via email, but they can come through different sources, whether it be somebody that may tell you to apply to this, word of mouth, or send you something email, or if you're collaborating with another university, you can just go ahead and apply to those, but we'll just have you schedule a meeting with us to go over everything that you would need for that. So another way that we do get funding opportunities is through Grants Forward, and that's a profile, a platform that we use to get PIs such as yourself to create a profile and set up your profile to the specific types of research that you want to apply to. And it could be whether it's the type of research or even the sponsors that you want to apply to. So if that is something that you like, which we do encourage everyone to create a profile, just you can contact me and I can help you set that up for you. And next slide. Okay. So when you come to me or any research development rep, we will ask you for the solicitation or the request for a proposal so that we can review it and look over it and then make sure that you're creating every document that is required for submission, so that way nothing comes back as declined from an agency, to make sure that you do get at least an opportunity to be reviewed. So we'll review that solicitation. We'll go over everything with you. For some agencies, we will create a checklist, and then we also try to create a timeline to where you know as a PI, as well as anybody else that you may have on your project, when things are due to RSP, as well as when things are due for the agency. So we'll go ahead and create a meeting, schedule a meeting that we'll go over everything of that nature. And then in that meeting, we'll also go over your budget. We'll help sit down with you, create your budget to where we'll ask all the questions that are needed for your budget, make sure that you're within the dollar amount that sponsoring agency is able to provide funding for. And then we'll also go over any forms or certifications that are needed, whether it's internal or from the sponsoring agency side. So we try to make sure we go over everything with you so that you're not confused about anything, you're not left in the dark about anything, so that everything is upfront and known to everyone. And then on the technical side, we'll give you the guidelines for those sponsoring agencies. So NSF, for instance, they have their own guideline packet that's called the PATG. And we try to make sure that everything that is needed for any NSF submissions are following that PATG. And then we also go over any intricate details such as the font, the format, whether it's the size that's needed, whether it's margins, whatever it is. I'll go over all your documents to make sure that it falls within that guidelines for whatever sponsoring agency. And I want to point out something that's very, very important in its time. Make sure that you come to ORSP, the earlier the better, so that way we can provide you with all the services that we can offer. And like I say, help us to help you. So that's something that I want to stress. If you don't get anything else, come to us early. All right, so next slide. So for proposal submissions, we do an internal approval and review for your proposals before we submit it to the sponsoring agency. So what that entails is that after we get all your proposal documents uploaded into the system and all the internal forms that we need, we'll get everything into one big packet and send that off to your chair, your dean, as well as Dr. Kantner for approval. So that way we can make sure that as a university, we're submitting something that's worth submitting. We don't want to submit something that we don't support. So that's why we do this internal approval, making sure that everybody knows that this is a proposal that we're sending out and everybody's in agreement. And then as I mentioned, we'll also have the uploading of documents into whatever platform we're using. So whether it's research.gov or Fastlane for NSF, or grants.gov, which is what we use mainly for everything else, or we sometimes may use an email submission, depending on who we're submitting to. But for those other platforms, we have the PIs go ahead, upload everything into the system, but there are a few documents that ORSP, your RD rep, will be helping to assist with uploading for you, whether it be governmental forms. We do upload the budget for you, and as well as some other certification forms that we do have. So we'll go ahead and upload those for you, so that way you don't have to stress about much, but we'll upload the things that you as a PI don't necessarily have to worry about. And then once we have everything in the system, we'll go ahead and send you a copy of what you will see that the reviewers will be seeing. So you see everything and you go through that document, your proposal, to see that if there's any issues, if there's any, formatting issues that may have happened during upload, so that we can make sure we can take care of that before we hit submit. And so once we do get ready to submit, we'll send you the confirmation of everything. We'll send you the absolute final document that we did submit with. And so that way you're on, what has been submitted for you, as well as when it was submitted. And then you have a track number that you can always go back into the system to get any kind of updates on it, whether it's, suggested for review, whether it was approved, whether it was denied. You will be able to go into that system to get updates for your proposal. And as I will mention one more time, very last time, is that time matters. Make sure that you come to us as early as you have an interest in submitting to a sponsoring agency. We want to make sure that you are getting as much help and assistance that you need for your submission. So please, 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 I'm not stressing it enough. Please come to us as early as you can. And as I said, we're here to help you in any way that we can. Help us help you. Thank you.
Thanks, Leanne. All right, Dr. Boston is going to talk about some of the incentives we have for those of you who are involved in sponsored research. You're muted.
Thank you, Leanne. Thank you, John.
In ORSP, we do realize that it is a lot of work to write proposals and manage your award. It is so exciting when you receive that congratulations letter from the sponsoring agency that you have been awarded. And I do want to say that from cradle to grave, from the time that you have the idea that you want to submit a proposal to close out of your project, you are assigned an ORSP representative in one of the units to help you along the way. So with that being said, we do offer incentives in ORSP for you to do sponsored research. We have 4 major incentives that I wanted to talk about today, which includes your IPDs, your reassignments, research, or carry forward funding, also the RCRA program, and finally, STARS. So I'm going to talk a little bit in detail about each one. So the first incentive is your IPDs, or individual professional development accounts. When you receive a grant and award, an IPD is created for you. Now, there are 2 ways that you can receive funding in your IPD. The first is through recovered F&A. F&A stands for facilities and administrative costs. F&A are also called indirect costs or overhead costs. So you will hear F&A, indirect, or overhead costs used interchangeably. For the most part, every grant is charged F&A. So exactly 10% of the recovered F&A is returned to you in your very own IPD. So presumably, the more awards that you receive through ORSP, the more funds that get accumulated in your IPD. The second way that you can receive funds in your IPD is through residual balances from a fixed price contract. If you receive a fixed price contract from the sponsor and you do not spend all of your funds, then a portion of those unused funds are returned to you in your IPD. So there are ways that you can use your IPD. IPD can be used for anything that promotes and enhances research here at the university. Many faculty use their IPDs to pay themselves summer compensation for writing proposals or for reviewing to a grant award. Some faculty also use their IPD funds to pay student wages, travel, food for a research development activity, equipment, supplies, and membership. So all of those are allowable items for your IPD. The next incentive that I wanted to talk about includes course buyouts or reassignments. You may charge the grant sponsor for a course buyout or a reassignment by identifying in your proposal budget effort that is going to be used on the grant award. And your assigned ORSP representative will assist you with that. If you charge the sponsor for a course buyout, this means that there is a salary savings to your department for some of the salaries and benefits that you would normally charge department for your primary position. But now the grant or the sponsor is being charged for those salaries and benefits. The salaries and benefits saved are called salary savings. So each college has a contract and grant salary savings account. And these funds in the salary savings account are used to support the researcher who contributed to those funds. But these funds are also at the discretion of each college and dean. Also, the funds in the salary savings accounts, they do not go away. So unused funds are carried forward from year to year to year. The third incentive includes the Research Course Release Awards, or better known as RCRAs.
Well, RCRAs are a little different from the reassignments or course buyouts that I just mentioned, or that salary savings program. And that the RCRAs the funding comes from academic affairs rather than the grant sponsor. So with the RCRA program, you receive a course buyout and academic affairs pays for the adjunct to teach the course. You are eligible to participate in the RCRA if your proposal meets certain conditions, which include your proposal is a minimum of $100,000 per year, or the sum of the funding is at least $100,000 to support students. Also, you must have the full recovered F&A or the maximum F&A allowed by the sponsor charged to your grant proposal. And then finally, your chair and dean must approve for you to participate in the RCRA program. Now, the final incentive is my favorite, which is STARS. STARS is our annual Scholars Transforming Academic Research Symposium. It is our annual event in ORSP where we highlight and showcase all of the excellence of research that is being done by our faculty and staff here at UNF. STARS has 3 components. The first is our Research Now chats, in which we pick a hot topic that's going on in the research world, such as how do I fire up my research? How do I become successful in submitting a federal grant? What are the reviewers looking for in a proposal that is being submitted? So those are all topics that we talk about in our Research Now chat. We have faculty who are engaged in those Research Now chats, and they are led by the ORSP team. The second component of STARS includes our poster competition. And our poster competition has 2 categories, one for tenured faculty and the other for junior faculty. There are 2 awards that are given at STARS. $3,000 is given to the poster selected by UNF faculty and staff. So your peers come and vote on the poster that they believe is the most innovative and creative, and the faculty member with the most votes wins $3,000. And that is per category, tenure faculty and junior faculty. And then also $1,000 is given to the faculty member who receives the most votes from students. So our students come and participate in STARS as well, and they get to vote on the poster that they believe is the most innovative and creative. So potentially you could go away from STARS with $4,000 to support your research here at the university. And then finally, STARS concludes with the culminating event, which is our award ceremony. And last year, of course, due to COVID, we had it done via virtual, but normally it is done in person, in which we invite all the chairs, the deans, our entire university community, and we come and we highlight and give awards to faculty who have been engaged in research excellence throughout the academic year. And so at STARS, there are various awards that are given. If you submit a proposal through ORSP and you receive funding, you will receive an award at STARS. Also, if you're part of the department with the most faculty engaged in research, you will also receive an award at STARS. And then our top category, although there are many more, is what includes our Millionaire STARS. If you receive $1 million or more in sponsored research funding throughout an academic year, you will get inducted into our Millionaire STARS Club. And that comes with perks. You get a humongous picture framed in our ORSP conference room for all of generations and your grandkids to see. And then also you receive a Millionaire Stars navy blue blazer. Similar to how when you win the Masters tournament, the golf, they give that green blazer or jacket, you receive that navy blue blazer with UNF Millionaire Star embossed on it. So you are able to parade around campus or even attend Zoom meetings, and everyone is aware that you are a Millionaire Star here at UNF. So those includes our incentives, and we encourage you and hope to see you in the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs for many of the, to participate in many of the incentives that we have.
Great, thanks, Teresa. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about research integrity, and Dr. Raheem Williams will give you an overview of what we do there. If you're muted.
Thanks, John. Good morning, everyone. Our unit is the unit that ensures that regulatory requirements are met based upon the funding from a particular entity when you're submitting a proposal or a protocol that may be funded or not funded. Our unit works with 3 oversight committees who are responsible for ensuring that these federal regulations and guidelines are fulfilled and met. These 3 particular oversight committees are the IRB, which probably most of you will be working with, the IOCUC, which is the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, and the Institutional Biosafety Committee. We liaison with you as a PI to ensure that you are submitting to the correct committee that will help you take a look at what needs to be sure that you are following regulatory guidelines. So we let you know about those guidelines as you develop that particular protocol. When you submit through what's called our IRB net, there are those guidelines there that will help you, and we will be there to help you also. One of the neat things that we have on our particular website is a link for, does my protocol require IRB review? And at what level is that review? And there's a decision tree that will help walk you through that particular process. So there's a website that's available for you. We don't want you just out there kind of in the dark. We're here to help you. So we help you with that IRB net submission guidelines. When you go to that website, you will create a username and a login, and you'll find that there's everything there that you will need for submitting your proposal for review. There are also things that we do which have to do with the authorization agreement preparation. We assist you with that as part of our services. We do educational presentations and workshops. We come to classes. Some professors will request that we come and speak to their class because their students will have master's projects, thesis projects, they'll have doctoral projects, and we're there to help with that. So if you have a request and you'd like for us to come and speak to your class, please let us know and we'll be happy to arrange to do that. If you have transfer protocols that you are bringing to the university, we can also assist you with the details related to that. We work in concert with RD, our Research Development Unit, as well as our GAFM unit to ensure that you're transferring a protocol to the university, gets all the services that it's required. So sometimes publishers will require a copy of the regulatory committee's declaration prior to publication. So we make sure that that is provided to you once you meet the guidelines for your particular project. Sometimes also these federal agencies require formal agreements to review protocols for starting future projects. What's very important, be sure that you have your approval prior to starting a project. We know how exciting getting started on research projects can be, and you want to just jump right in and get started. But please remember that there are compliance issues that must be met first. And we must take a look at that particular protocol to ensure that it meets whatever particular guidelines that are required and that you have your approval first. With that in mind, please plan ahead to submit timely. Think about a 30-day process to get submitted, reviewed, and a decision. Why 30 days? Sometimes that proposal, that protocol may have some revisions that are needed. Once we take a look at it, if there are certain things that still need to be a little clearer, we will contact you and we will ask you to please clarify or make some revisions. At that point, where the timeline is in your hands. We give you approximately 90 days to make any revisions. Now, you certainly may not need the entire 90 days. We understand that, but you do have enough time to make revisions. Once we receive those revisions back in our unit, we review them again to ensure that they meet compliance. Sometimes there are categories that may fit quite well for you to get a fast turnaround, and those are those kind of proposals or protocols that meet an exempt standard. There are guidelines, though, that you must meet for a protocol to meet an exemption. If it meets that exemption, we let you know, and then you get an approval and may begin. However, not all times will a protocol meet the exempt standard. That means then that they may have to go to a designated IRB committee member, an IACUC member, or an IBC member for review and determination. They then also have particular guidelines under which they look for reviewing, and they have a timeline. So you must then factor in what happens should my protocol need to go to review. There's another timeline that you want to consider in when you're submitting. Once we get the review back from a committee, we then let you know their determination, and sometimes they may still require additional information. We let you know, you submit the revisions, and the process again starts all over. If it's okay, we let you know, and then you may get your approval to move forward. That then may be when something is expedited. But again, there may also be a time when a full board review is required. If that is the case, that proposal then must wait until the board meets monthly. At that point, we let you know, though, if it is required to go to full board review. And as such, you then are aware of the timeline. So this is saying, please ensure that when you submit your protocol for a study of yours that is funded by a sponsor, or whether it is not funded by a sponsor, that you have allowed adequate time for that protocol to come in, to be reviewed, and to get the approval prior to your starting. Sometimes you will put on the forms that you see that it's time sensitive. Think about time sensitive, though, within the timeline of a turnaround that may require revisions from you. If that's what you are able to do, then you will have a pretty smooth process from start to finish. But we're here to help you. We will guide you through this entire process, and we want you to make sure that not only for you, but for your students as well, that this process works quite well for you to have your protocol approved for moving forward with your research. And we're here to help you with that. So please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to speak with you further and to answer questions that you may have. I look forward to working with you.
All right, so that's a quick overview. We obviously have many other services that we provide. So what's not represented in what we talked about is the grants accounting and management unit. And obviously the intellectual property management. So if you have questions about those, certainly feel free to reach out. I think hopefully the message that you heard clearest is that we want you to come to us early and often. I think probably the problem that we have the most is when faculty try to avoid coming to our office because they're afraid they're going to be asked to do certain things that they maybe don't want to do, or afraid are going to slow down their process. But if you don't come to us early, then it just prolongs the whole system. So please come to us with what you need. We are here to help. We've actually made I think quite significant advances in trying to expedite timelines for all the things that we've talked about. But of course, there are many faculty at UNF, there are many students at UNF, and all of them are also using these services. So we're sort of a first come, first serve. So please come first, and we'll be there to assist you. So I know we ran a little late, and that's my fault, and I apologize for the mix-up about getting the meeting set up properly. If you have questions, and I know there was a couple that were put in the chat, but if you do have questions in the future, reach out to us. There's the email address for our general office. You can also find our individual email addresses on our website. Our website actually has quite a bit of information on it, and so just be sure to come to and visit it. It has things like, does my project need to go through the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs if it's a funding project? We have research integrity, which has a lot of the information which Dr. Raheem Williams was just talking about, including, does my project need IRB, and so forth. So we've done quite a bit of work to try to enhance the website so that it's easy for you to find what you need. And then, of course, we also have the staff information about how to contact us. So, welcome to UNF, and we look forward to meeting you all in person and working with you this semester and onward. So you all have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend, and good luck at the start of the semester. Take care, everybody.